Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our regular season of Cellar Talks. And today we are going to go to South Africa again, and episode 2 of season 4 of Cellar Talks. And in a minute, we'll ask Carolyn Martin from Creation Wine to join us. So let's give it a minute. I see some people dropping in. I see Creation already online. So let's invite them into the show. In the meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, you can always drop them in the question mark box. But Carolyn is already there. Hello, can you hear me?
Great to hear. Great to see you. Yeah.
Perfect. You've had a busy day today, right?
Yeah, we had some great news today. We just got the Chardonnay of the year in South Africa on platters, so that was really awesome.
Yeah, I got tipped by somebody because I hardly missed it, but just in time I heard that you guys got the award. So congratulations! But it seems to be not a one-time thing because you guys win a lot of awards. So it's become sort of a standard thing with you.
Well, I think we've just had a lucky year. So we've just been really lucky this year, and yeah, we it's like, what are we going to do next year? You know, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's it. If you win it, then yeah, next year you have to win it again at least. That's the best you can do, right?
You know, everything is it's a work in progress at Creation. So we always just work on how we can improve all the little things, and I think that is really, you know, it's our Kaizen theory, basically. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about it later, but you win awards in all kinds of fields. So there is always another field you can win an award in, because it's not just the wine. There's a lot of other things that you're good at. So happy to talk a little bit about that later. But before we go in depth, let's start with a little introduction, because I already explained to the people today we're in South Africa, and we're going to talk with you about Creation. But just give us a little introduction about yourself first before we go into the winery and South Africa and the region.
Yeah. So I was born in the winelands, and I was born on a farm in Stellenbosch called Hartenberg. I grew up with my grandparents and my whole family. I just remember when I was about 5 years old, I couldn't find my gran, and I had to look after the guests that arrived, and I had to do a cellar tour. So that is, you know, how I grew up. It was like
at 5 years old.
Yeah, at 5. Yeah. So and then eventually I found my grandma, and she took over. But I was already listening to everything that was happening in the cellar growing up as well. You know, all the conversations that my dad was having, and it was just amazing to be learning all the time, just absorbing information by osmosis. I also got into wine tourism quite early. I used to help my mom on Blauwklippen. It was one of the first wine estates in South Africa that actually did wine tourism. She used to make sure that when the students came to visit, that they had something to eat, so that they could drive safely out of there.
And not just the wine so that they got drunk, but the food needs to go with it, right?
Yeah. So I used to do all the platters with her, and I used to help with wine tastings, and I used to help my dad with wine blending as well. And then I also helped later on with sales. So I used to go around the country and travel, and I used to do wine tastings and sell wine. And then I studied design. I went to London. I met Jean-Claude in Switzerland, my husband. He's actually also from a wine family in Switzerland. And we are both third generation wine from the wine families, and it's quite interesting to have a little bit of the old world and the new world matched together. And yeah, I think that adds some interesting layers and complexity to what we are doing.
Yeah, because you certainly, like you said, both of you come from a wine family. So in that respect, you already learned a lot and did a lot before you started Creation Wines, both of you. You also had some step outs, and when you went to London, you went out of the wine business for a while. But when I was reading the story about you guys, and it's been already, I don't know, I think 2 or 3 months ago when I started to look into Creation Wines, and we had some events where we tasted some of your wines, so that was really great. But what stood out to me is that now, I think 20 years ago, approximately, you started Creation Wines, right?
Yeah, so I met Jean-Claude in Switzerland when I was doing the rebranding for Glencarlo for my father, and then we lived. I moved from London to Switzerland. We lived in Switzerland for a few years, and then we came to visit my uncle here in South Africa,
Yeah.
also another wine estate, and actually Burchard Finlayson, and then JC fell in love with the place, and he decided that he was going to buy a property, so he bought Creation, and this is how we started Creation. So yeah, we started.
And that's 20 years ago now, or
2002, we bought the land, and we were the first to plant the first virus-free mother block in South Africa in 2003 and 2004, and we predominantly have Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. That is the cultivars which the region is famous for, and what we have just got the wonderful Platter Awards for, and some of the other awards that or accolades that we've had this year. So that's our passion, because it's a cool climate area very close to Walker Bay. It's in Walker Bay, very close to the Atlantic Ocean, and it's perfect for growing Chardonnay and Pinot. Fantastic ancient soils where we are, and yeah, very.
But you were reading my mind a little bit, because what I wanted to go to is then both of you have a total background in the wine industry, but you decided to go to a place that was non-existing in terms of the wine. I mean, when you bought the land, it was a sheep farm, if I understand correctly from JC in the video, right? There was nothing in terms of vineyard or winery where you started Creation, right?
Yeah, no, there wasn't. But Peter assured us that this was definitely one of the best properties that he'd ever seen, and he's been in the Hemel-en-Aarde for 25 years. So
you got some good insights.
My father was completely convinced. I was just like, I just had big eyes and said to JC, do you know what a big project this is? This is a huge project. It was like,
Are you sure about this? I mean, we
yeah?
can do it in another way if you want to. I mean, there's other entries.
I saw my father do this 3 times in his life, and I knew how tough it was. And but they were, the whole family, there are many winemakers in the family. In fact, our family started 11 wine farms in South Africa, and they were all.
So you're not new to starting all over again. I mean, the family has done it a lot of times, so that's.
Yeah, and they were totally convinced that this was the most special place ever. And
yeah, well, I like that a lot. I mean, just the fact that it's totally yours and it's totally new, and of course the region that was not new, but as you said, the property. I mean, that you had started all of that anew, and you already mentioned virus free. I mean, it's you basically created it. It's Creation Wise, but you created it towards what you wanted it to be together.
Yeah, in Switzerland we had a very good property with very old vineyards. Mm-hmm. But it's always great when you can start with a blank canvas, and that was JC's dream, so that he could plant the right rootstocks with the right clones on the right aspects, and really kind of map, the whole creation, if you like, exactly how he wanted to do it. And I would have to tell you that we did about 90% of it right. We've had to change around 10% of the plantings, but it's quite remarkable considering that, it hadn't been planted to vines.
I think 90%, I mean, I'm not a winemaker and a grape grower, but 90% to me sounds like a good start. I mean, the 10%, there's always the trial and error and changes that you have to make along the road, right?
And, that's what we're doing at the moment. We just like at the finer detail on everything that we're doing, and
Yeah.
that's hugely exciting. So,
Well, it's nice because you see, we talked about awards, and in the end, awards are good because it's a recognition. But you know how good your wines are. You don't need an award for that. You also see the development of the vines and the vintages that you make and that you create. So you also see a trend. And obviously, since we're talking about a product of nature here, it takes time for vines to fully get to their potential. And I already read now it's been planted about 20 years ago. Now we're looking at vines that have that are, let's say, blossoming, and they're really in the power of where they need to get to. And you've obviously every year seen that change going into the vintages and the result that came out of it. How was that for you, for the two of you, to see that development?
It's really fantastic to see, you know, as vineyards age, obviously you get more complexity, and you get to understand the terroir better, and the little things that you can tweak just to make things better. So it's for us it's exciting, and it's good because we have virus-free vineyards. We know that, you know, we've planted to grow old, and that is something
as a legacy as well, huh?
Yeah, it's a fantastic legacy, and it's a chance also for our children to, have something great to take over. So our son is a third-year enology student at Stellenbosch University, and it's been wonderful. We're starting to do a lot of research work with his lecturers at Stellenbosch, Dr. Ernest Blankart, and we're working on a project with Professor Satati on climate change, and a global project on Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So it's interesting.
A lot of development and changes, innovation, new ways of looking at both growing the grapes and making the wine, everything, the total picture.
Yeah. Also doing a lot of work on the viticultural side. Also, we've got a project that we're going to be working on with the Gen Z project for Vititech, and that is about looking at rootstocks, clones, matching them up, and looking at also cover crops, and whether we actually re-establish some of the fynbos as well between the rows.
So you're actually looking at more than just getting a good yield out of it and getting a good wine out of it. It's really the picture that you feel it needs to be in sync. Everything needs to work together there.
We have incredible biodiversity where we are, because we're between two mountain ranges. So it's very wild there, and just fantastic from that point of view, and great ecology. So fantastic climate, as well as just very good fauna and flora. And I think that's really important from a sustainability point of view, to have good biodiversity. It prevents all kinds of issues, you know. So when you come and visit us, you will see it's very green where we are between the vineyards. There are lots of little good bugs around.
A lot of things going on in all seasons of the year.
Yeah.
Very good. Today, for the people that are watching, if you have any questions, I'll every now and then say it again. You can just drop them in the chat or in the question mark box that's in the bottom of the app, and we will just try to answer them along as we go, or at the end of the show. And we're also going to taste the wine a little bit later. I'm just going to show it for everybody, for those that didn't see it. But this is your Pinot Noir Reserve. I'm having the right one, correct? Yeah, that's matching.
2000.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So a lot more about this later when we're going to taste that. But for everybody, there are some people that actually were able to get the same wine, even in Holland. So I heard the last person that told me that there were only 3 left at that particular store. So I don't know, maybe now they're sold out by now. But then you'll have to get some more to Holland. I know it's always difficult because there's more demand than you guys can supply, I think, at the moment. But the wines are really great. We already tasted and reviewed some of them at the event at Kasteel Engelenburg a few weeks ago. which was really nice. Because for the people that didn't see it, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the project that you're doing there.
That was really wonderful. So during the third lockdown in South Africa, you know, because when the government locks down here, it's serious. So we completely locked down. Arjun sent me a message and said in July, it would be great when you can send a few of your people to work with me. And of course, Arjun plays a fantastic sommelier and director of Kasteel Engelenburg. So in Brummen and Zutphen, they have 2 5-star hotels with Michelin chefs. And it was a chance to do an exchange program with my team and them. And so we sent 3 of our staff to the Netherlands. When South Africa was on the red list, we managed to get them out, but it was just...
I was wanting to ask you, there was a lockdown, you told me just now, but you still were able to get the people to all of these.
It would not be possible, that it was going to be completely impossible to do it. And for me, that's just like rocket fuel. That's like saying...
Then you want to make sure that you get it done.
Yeah. Then I'm just even more determined than I ever was, because I knew it would be such a great learning opportunity for them. You know, it would just be so special for them. So
you were on the phone with the embassy the whole day to make sure that they still got...
I must tell you, you know, it was incredible, because I sent the message to the Premier of the Western Cape government, Alan Wendy, and he's so excited about the project. You know, exchange and collaboration is so important in terms of innovation in wine, in viticulture, in terms of culinary expertise, in so many different ways. And I think, you know, that for me was so important to give them the chance. So Abangili, Nomvula and Charles went to the... We managed to get 3 visas for them, and Sebastian Messerschmidt, the Dutch consulate or Netherlands consulate general, was just amazing to us. He really helped a lot, and we fitted all the criteria. And I think it was such an incredible exchange for them. They've come back with so many ideas, and I think, you know, just a lot of growth in terms of their life skills as well, which has been wonderful. They were actually doing radio interviews today. I was so proud.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So they're continuing the story, even now they're back.
Yeah. So
that's good. Oh, I had it was a great lunch, great wines, but most of all, the people were very kind and talented, and they did a great job. So now I have the opportunity to tell it to you straight away. I'll do it again. And I think you're very lucky, and I know that you are, and that you think that way that you have such great staff working with you. And I'm happy that they were able actually to come here, and that we also could benefit from it, because that was really a good occasion to learn more about creation, and also about Kasteel Engelenburg, but the collaboration that you guys pulled off. So thanks again for that. That was really interesting. So when we talk about, let's take a little bit of a step back. You already explained a little bit where you're situated in South Africa, Walker Bay, if I'm correct.
Yeah, about 120 kilometers from Cape Town, and a little bit, you know, easterly up the coast. Yeah.
So actually, when people are on a holiday in South Africa and they're cruising around along the coastline, then they can just go a little bit inland, and that's not that far for them. And then there would just be the Hemel-en-Aarde Ridge, it's called, right? So it's on the...
Yes, so you travel, it's the Hemel-en-Aarde sort of region, really, that you go up into, Walker Bay, and then you go up into the Hemel-en-Aarde, and you start in the Hemel-en-Aarde Valley, and then you go into Upper Hemel-en-Aarde, and then you get to Hemel-en-Aarde Ridge. So there are 3 different wards. Right at the top, you're actually only about 9 kilometers from the ocean as the crow flies.
And you have Hermanus' town closest to you.
Fabulous seaside town, really beautiful, with incredible beaches, 27 kilometers of snow white sands, and it's summertime now, and it's just the best place in the world to be.
I'm already jealous, so I've put it on the list. So as soon as we get the opportunity, I'll be sure to come by, and I think people can make a great holiday about it, even if you're not totally crazy about wine. I know you guys do great hospitality, and also culinary, as you already explained, is very important culinary aspect. So I think everybody that will come will have a great time with you guys when they're visiting.
Yeah, well, people that love fine wine love fine food too, and we
Yeah,
really
it's true.
well known for our wine and food pairing. You know, every herb, every spice, every flower is not, there's no garnishes. It's actually everything contributes towards the flavor profile or the texture of the dish. And
Well, I think that's very admirable because most of the time when it looks like it's um, simple, it's more and it's meant to be, then it's the most difficult because yeah, these things it's very precise. It's if you're off a little bit, then it doesn't taste anymore like it should be. I mean, there's not there's a lot to that. So always huge respect if you have your staff and the quality and the knowledge to pull that off in a great way. Um, about the wines, you already said Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, main varieties. Today we're there's tasting one of the Pinot Noirs. Before we go into the lines that you also have some other varieties, right? So maybe you can mention those out that you have on the winery.
the different varieties.
Yep.
So, yeah, we have Sauvignon Blanc as well, Semillon. Uh, we have some Rhone cultivars like Roussanne, and we have Grenache Blanc now. We have Viognier, which we're actually quite famous for, and in a way, the Dutch market really loves our Viognier. It's so fresh
Mm-hmm.
and very elegant, and very beautiful aromatics on it. We have Syrah as well, Grenache Noir.
Yep.
Um, those are the main cultivars that we really focus on. Yeah.
And some of these it depends per vintage, I believe, where you make them single or you blend them because obviously, yeah, that sometimes it's really what the vintage gives you. So that's not like they're every year. I mean, the Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, you have different lines. We'll get to that, but those you have every year. But the
Yeah.
Syrah, for instance, is not necessarily a vintage that comes up every year, or
It does most years, but yeah, I think we have skipped a vintage in 2018, I think. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So it doesn't come up every year, but we do like to make single varietals and then actually look at because it's interesting to do that and see how the blends work together. So, for example, we make a
yeah.
very good edition of single Grenache Noir, and we make a Syrah as well, and then what we do is we do a blend of Syrah Grenache. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense because when I started this, the first one of the first interviews I had, I was always under the assumption that people have a plan. I mean, I'm originally from very different business, so I'm always like you plan stuff or what you want to get. But with winemaking, most of the times when you talk to winemakers, that's not the case. I mean, okay, you know that you want to make a Chardonnay, you know you want to make a Pinot Noir, but the other ones, like you said, you start off. Okay, this could be a single, but maybe it turns out that you want to make it into a blend. I mean, you don't know yet when you harvest the grapes what that will be.
So I think what's interesting, just as an example, the
Hmm.
Roussanne and Grenache Blanc and Viognier, we kind of creating building blocks at the moment. So what JC started with was Viognier and realized that it had really beautiful aromatics on it, and because of the long slow ripening period, because of the slightly cooler climate that we're in, it also had very interesting texture, retained good natural acidity, and so he realized that it might be possible to have all of the wonderful aroma that you want on a Rhone style blend, and actually have beautiful texture, but maybe not have very high alcohol and
Hmm.
a wine that lacks acidity or freshness. And so that's
Yeah.
one of the things that we're working on, is the building blocks on creating a
So
white
that
Rhone style blend.
means
Yeah.
the recipes change, and for that matter, the portfolio also changes because I mean it's never stopping or it's never standing still, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Sorry, I missed you for a second there. What you were saying?
Yeah. Niels, can you?
I think we're still.
I lost you
Yeah,
for.
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're still there. So let's go into. Oh no, before we go into the tasting, I would say we go into the tasting, but maybe mention the lines that you have for the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir, because those are the main varieties that you have. But today we have a reserve Pinot Noir. But how do you level those wines?
We have the estate Pinot Noir, which is the biggest production that we have, where we have 4 different vineyard blocks for Pinot Noir and the same for Chardonnay. And then we have the reserve, which is from a single site vineyard. And then we have the art, which is from a parcel within a single site vineyard. And then we have the Emma, in terms of Pinot, which is actually almost like a cuvee of a parcel within a single site vineyard. So it's the same with Glen's Chardonnay. So 4 different Pinot Noirs, 4 different Chardonnays. Very interesting in terms of the differences from the sites, so I think that makes a big difference. I think it's great to be able to have such a beautiful range of wines. They each have their different attributes, which are really wonderful. When we drink the estate wines, they are beautiful and fresh, quite easy drinking. The reserve wines are a little bit more textured and perhaps for aging a little bit more. The art is definitely something for the cellar, and ideally, I think it would be good if you can put it in the cellar for a few years and just enjoy it over time, and more collector's piece. And also just, if you really love Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, there's no way that you will find wine. I think it'll be hard to find wine of that quality. Prices that you find from South Africa. So I think.
I totally agree. I mean, I was recently in Burgundy, but we did some episodes last year. One with Pardon about South Africa, and well, you know him, Pardon Taguzu, and we were talking about South Africa as a wine country, and obviously he has a background as a sommelier there, but he knows a lot of the wineries, and we were talking about how also unknown for a lot of people South Africa and the quality of South African wine is, and how still the price is very low when you compare to to old world wine, I would say. So maybe a word before and then we'll really go into the tasting, because some people are, I hope they're not waiting. I hope they just already opened a bottle, but then we'll go into the tasting. But maybe from your, what you think about the image that old world, new world, and South Africa, how that plays out at the moment.
How I think the image plays out. I think that there's a lot of learning going on between the old world and the new world, and it's interesting because we are both an old world in a way from JC's background and world in terms of our terroir. So I think that is really fascinating. We have a lot of winemakers visiting us, and we actually have a small project as well that we work on with the Priers from the main Jacques Prier, and we were just spending time with Philippe Colline from Chassagne last weekend. So there's a lot of exchange. I had some interesting winemakers come and visit me from Lyon this week as well. So it's just people that want to, for me, wine, the beautiful thing about wine is that there is so many beautiful wines in the world, and there's so much to learn all the time, and actually it's just about exchange.
It doesn't feel like competition in that sense.
Sorry?
I said it doesn't feel like competition in that sense, because
No.
you cannot compare.
No, we don't. It's not for us. It's not about competition. It's about improving everything that we are doing all the time, and actually making sure people drink better wine and make sure people choose wine.
Yeah, very good. I think you're summing it up right, and that's the idea I also get is with the climate change going on is that a lot of people also in France, but also even in Italy and other countries in the old world are now looking into how new world countries and winemakers are doing that because obviously you had to compete, you had to work with different climatology and different circumstances. So sometimes you really have to go there to get the answer of what's going to go, what lies ahead for you. And yeah, the fact that a lot of winemakers from France, etc., are visiting you guys, it says something. I mean, they're also looking for where to move to, what to do in the next decades, I assume.
Yeah, you know, we have this. There are some issues in common around the world. So it's how do we solve those as quickly as possible? You know, how do
Yeah.
we resolve those things? And that's really what it's about, is just finding best practice on everything.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so back to this one. I mean, I'm now in the lucky circumstance that I think I had 4 different varieties of you guys. And this one is one that I also had at Castel Engelenburg, but I think this is one of my favorites. What I like about most of the wines, well, the wines that I tasted, so I have tasted all of them, is that you talked about alcohol. And then you're already keen to mention that you try to keep the alcohol on a low level. It doesn't need to be, it needs to be light-footed, the wine, elegant. And this is something I see in actually in all the wines that I tasted, all the different ones. But tell us a little bit
Yeah,
how, with this one, how that works.
Okay, so well, I just first of all want to tell you that that I think JC maybe doesn't want me to say this, but Pinot Noir is his favorite cultivar,
Mm-hmm.
and mine
It's good
too.
that you're
It's
saying
like
it, so now at least we know.
so. If our entire family make Pinot Noir. This is like the cultivar that we have in common. That's our binding.
If you had to choose to do only one, then it would be the Pinot Noir.
Probably.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit of a fight between Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, but Pinot Noir is the thing, really. And I think the most exciting thing is that it's hard to find people that can do both really well. Normally you're known for one or the other. But I have to say we've had some incredible compliments. I mean, Greg Sherwood said something in a blog 2 years ago. He said, "Creation cracks the enigma code of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir in South Africa." And I thought to myself, what a beautiful idea, the enigma code. It's just like, it sums up for me Pinot Noir and Chardonnay like 100%. Because Pinot Noir is they're both fine cultivars, if you like. For me, this Pinot Noir is like Prince Charming. It's just the most incredible color. It's got this incredible
Just
vibrancy.
show the color for the people. It's always difficult on the camera, but it doesn't do justice to the color. I think it works better with you even, because you should see you look straight to the bottom, obviously. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
And it's just got this incredible vibrancy. It's got this incredible, beautiful velvet texture to it. It's got amazing aromas. It's just, for me, it's like imagine just eating those little wild strawberries in the Alps. It's got that really lovely, just delicious flavor profile to it. The thing that's, for me, the most exciting thing about Pinot Noir is it never tires your palate. It's so elegant, it's so full of energy, it's got so much vibrancy. And once you've had really good Pinot Noir, it's hard to really enjoy other much heavier cultivars, I find, but maybe that. And also because I think generally food has become lighter and, and
that works in the hands of Pinot Noir because, well, you're talking about elegant wine. You're talking about something that's light-footed. It's something that's also a little bit on the back, but always there. But it's not something that will with fat food, for instance. That's not what you want. That will go in a wrong direction.
Yeah. So I'm hugely excited by Pinot Noir as well because I love eating fish and I really enjoy fresh tuna. And JC likes to go and catch fresh tuna off the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings back fantastic tuna for us. And then we make sashimi in the tasting room and tartare. And like, that's a perfect pairing to go with this
It's
wine.
nice that you say
really
that
gorgeous.
because a lot of people still always ask me and well, other people that know a little bit about wine or sommeliers, or even if you're not a sommelier, are you allowed to drink a red wine with the fish? And I mean, this is a question probably you'll always get every now and then, but that works perfectly. I mean, like you said, in this case, with the tuna, I can totally imagine that that works.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work with every red wine. It
No.
depends on the tannin structures of the wine, and because we have we definitely have structure here, but it's
Mm-hmm.
they're quite gentle tannins, so you don't have that issue of iodine together with tannins forming that compound called allicin, or allicin, which is just so kind of tinny and is actually so unpleasant. And that is what is special about Pinot Noir. If you had a really heavy red wine that had much bigger tannins, it would be really unpleasant to have with fish. So that's what I love about Pinot Noir. I can kind of start with it as apéro. I can have it with sashimi. I can have it with some beautiful game for winter. You know, we serve it often with springbok here because it's such a fine game, and then I can actually end with it for dessert, and it never tires my palate. It's just so fresh and vibrant.
Yeah, and that's it. And even if you have it in the glass for a longer time, that's still, I mean, it retains freshness all the time. And I think that's also a quality because a lot of red wines, the moment you give them too much air, too long, then already, you see those, it fades out a little bit. And it doesn't give you the excitement anymore that you will have when you have your first sip. But with this one, that keeps on working. So about the winemaking for this
So
one,
maybe you can.
Sorry,
Tom.
No, please go ahead. I was interrupting you. But...
Did you want to know about the winemaking?
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe you can add your tasting notes and you can tell me what you think, because that would be. And maybe some people have got some notes there if they're tasting. So it would be really lovely to get some feedback from them. So in 2018, we had a relatively early flowering season, and we picked about 10 days earlier than usual. We had very moderate crops, so 5 tons per hectare, around that mark, very healthy grapes, excellent flavor profile. I think you can see it in wine. We normally pick early in the morning, goes into 12-kilogram crates, and then it goes into the chiller room overnight. Then it goes into the open fermenters. There was a bit of whole bunch in here, and about 40 to 50%. And then what we did was we destemmed the rest of the grapes and filled up the open fermenters. So the open fermenters take about 4 to 5 tons of grapes each. And then it went into, it basically, after 5 or 6 days, started a spontaneous fermentation. And we just wet the cap. So we don't do we just use hand punch down, but we're not actually wanting to turn the grapes. It's about keeping the cap wet on the grapes.
So very low touch.
Yeah, very, very, very gentle, like really doing as little as possible. Then 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, some cold maceration, and then just doing a gentle press, basically making sure that we separate the fraction. So we literally just take the free run juice off and goes into barrels. From there, we go through 12 months. It goes into malolactic fermentation, of course, and then 12 months in the barrels, rack it off, put it into tanks for 3 to 4 months. No fining, no filtering, bottling. So like
And
very,
then you said 12 months, but that's for all, also for the estate, for instance. I forgot to ask, but you have the same,
sometimes,
or is it?
sometimes it is around 10 months. Depends,
Okay.
like on the Chardonnay. So it can be, yeah, sometimes a little bit less. Depends which, if it's estate wine, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
like,
you, yeah. So you wanted to know what I think about it, what I taste, at least. That was the question, right?
yes, yeah.
I didn't write down the notes. I'm also I did WSET. I know the WSET tasting notes principle, but I always try to stay clear away from that because what I find is it's a really nice structure, but a lot of people don't know it. So I mean, if you don't if you've never had WSET, it doesn't ring a bell to people. So I try to get into imagination of everybody, also people that don't drink a lot of wine. What I think is elegance. I heard somebody saying earlier about your wines, it's like Swiss Glock. Uh, I think you heard that a couple of times. And I totally get that when I taste this wine because um, it all ties into each other. It's not, of course, you have the fruit, the character of the Pinot Noir that's very pleasant. It's not too much. The tannins very low, but what I get is I really get the oak and how do you call it, the spicy notes. But
Mm.
they're all really helping each other. So what this wine does to me is that it's really tying into each other and is building structure. And the nice thing about it is that the structure continues in the mouth. So, of course, a very lengthy aftertaste. And that for me is always the best sign of a good wine and a good winemaker because, yeah, I mean, if you have to pick out one thing, then that's what it leaves you with. That's the memory that the wine gives you. And I think that's really a great wine. So obviously, I can go if we talk about aromas and notes. We can pick all the typical Pinot Noir aromas, and they are all there. But what I like most about it in general is that it's just so well integrated. And some people might not be a fan of that. So there might always be people that say, okay, I want the fruitiness to be more on top, or I want the earthy notes to be more there. That's a personal preference as well. But for me, the arts, if we talk about art and the art of creation, is always to be able to have it blend into each other and without losing some of it because yeah, it's easy to get have something lost in the wine. So that's my quick resume about it. So tell us what your personal what it does to you, the wine.
Yeah, I think you know, I think the for me the whole bunch is really a good way to go, and it kind of gives the wine freshness and brightness. And I think that that's really it's working good in terms of the style. And yeah, I want other people to comment. So tell me.
Yeah, I
I,
know that
I
I know that
say
there
one
are
little
actually people.
about my wine, but let's get back from everybody else.
I hope they're
I
gonna
like
put it in
it,
the
otherwise
chat.
we keep selling it. You know, I love it.
Yeah. That would be strange if you're now going to say to me, okay, actually, I'm not really a big fan of this wine, but let me just make it for other people. No, no, I know that there are people. I saw tasting notes being sent to me once for one person, but now the question is, do they dare to speak up in the chat? Because obviously that would be great. But if anybody who's watching says, "Okay, I want to comment on the wine," feel free to put your remarks in the chat or in the question mark box, and we'll just pick them up. So
One thing that I wanted to say is that the wines do age really beautifully because because there is a wonderful natural acidity in the wines, and
mhm.
they are very age worthy. Obviously, it's a good idea to check, after. Um, I think you should definitely check after 10 years, how the wine's doing in terms of its age.
I always like it when good winemakers and good wineries tell me that, and then I find out that it's so difficult to get those wines because I had the same discussion with Hemel-en-Aarde from Rhone, and they make a great Verdejo. And Jean, he always says to me, oh, you have to keep it. It's a Vin du Garde, so you have to, at least it needs to stay for 5 or 10 years. And I always ask, why don't you make more wine? Because I can never get enough to keep it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I totally agree, but it's difficult to get your hands on some stuff.
It is, you know, one of the things that we're doing at the moment is we're building a big storage warehouse so that we can actually store some of our wines,
So
and
wine library.
so that when wine lovers do visit us, there's a possibility that they can maybe try an older vintage.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great because even if you're not in the possibility or to buy them locally, you can always go there in due time and then have a let's say a vintage tasting and do a horizontal or go into that. It's we already have one here. Do you see? Can you see it, Carolyn, or not?
I can't at the moment. So
Okay, I will tell here. Fellow
yeah.
Stellenbosch girl here. Love the wine, beautiful balance of fruits, earthy notes, and tobacco. Can't stop drinking. I know she only ordered one bottle, but I think she's now feeling sorry that she only had one. So
Oh,
that's yeah, I think
cool.
that's a really nice comment.
That is a beautiful tasting note. Yeah, I love it. Really cool.
Yeah. Now we Prince Charming. Okay, you know, Prince Charming sweeping you off your feet, but that's Mets, so that's not fair. I mean, some people have some background knowledge here and get to taste more of your great wines. Um, Excellent wine. Let's conclude with that on the tasting, and I would encourage everybody to yes, not buy one, but buy at least two or three, so that you can tuck them away. And if you have the patience, it's always about patience to taste in one now, one in 5 years, and one in 10 years, for instance, because I'm pretty sure that that's going to work out with that wine. And I'm actually looking forward to that. So I will do some experimenting on that. Not with this bottle because this one is going to be empty very soon, I can tell you. When we talk about questions, and let me just check one thing here. I got a question. What creation wine is highest on your list? So that's your personal preference.
Well, I can tell you what's highest on the tasting room list and on the personal list is the arts. So Art of Chardonnay and Art of Pinot Noir. That's right at the top of the list. Yeah.
And then if you had to choose, for you it would be the Pinot Noir, as we already discussed.
Yeah. Well, you know, it so depends. It really depends on what you're eating, you know. But Pinot Noir, yes, it's just fabulous, isn't it?
Very good. Absolute brilliant Chardonnay, somebody's saying. So people are picking it up, and I started with the first one I had for you guys was then the Chardonnay, and then I went from Chardonnay to Chenin Blanc, and then I had the whole rest of it. But I have to say they're all different, obviously, and they all have their own uniqueness. But what comes back all the time is this precision in the wines, and it's also a great compliment to your winemaking team and to JC, because it's not easy to get that done, and it's even more difficult if you do that with 5-6 different grape varieties, because as you said, Pinot Noir is difficult, Chardonnay is difficult, but if you crack both, just the two already, then yeah, compliments to that.
Yeah, no, I have to say that when we do something, we want to do it well, and it's important for us that, you know, it's for our clients, you know, that they understand the quality and the consistency of the quality. That's so important.
Yeah. Talking about questions, I had a question from our previous guest. That's already a few weeks ago, because we're doing two seasons in the same time at the moment. I'm also doing a tour through Spain. So our previous guest in this series was from Italy. We were talking about northern Italy here, Friuli region, so very different. But his question was, and yeah, it's a question where most people would say, okay, I already have the answer, but let's see what they come up with if I still ask the question. And we were talking about native grape varieties, or I should say, I can't catch the right word there. Indigenous grapes. And because Spolecht, the winery, they do a lot of grapes that are typical for the Friuli region, Friano, Rifosco, and a few others that I can't get to mind to at the moment. But they really made a thing out of protecting those grape varieties and building it up and give them a stage again and making them important for the region and also in other countries. And his question was, do you have indigenous grapes in South Africa? So what would your answer be to that?
So yeah, Pinotage. So Professor Isaac Perrault combined what he thought were the best characteristics of Pinot Noir and Hermitage or Cinsault, and came up with Pinotage. And South Africa is really, I think, established this. There are some other countries in the world now who've planted Pinotage. Yeah, so that is my answer to that question.
So what? But you don't have a Pinotage.
No, we don't have Pinotage.
No.
Yeah.
But you have a lot all the French varieties. So in that sense, it doesn't maybe not even fit really in the line. But you have maybe some personal rows of that, or not at all. Or you're not a big fan of Pinotage. Maybe that's also personally that could also be an answer.
So I think that we've had some with Pinotage in South Africa. I'm not sure if the Hemel-en-Aarde is a good place to plant it. I think the Hemel-en-Aarde is a really good place to plant Pinot Noir. There's very few places in the world where you can plant Pinot Noir. And we want to make sure that when we are planting, we really plant the cultivars which we believe are best suited to our region. So maybe in a slightly warmer region, it would
I totally agree.
To plant Pinotage.
Yeah, it's not the must. It's what works in the end, and then you have a very clear strategy on the varieties that you have and the wines that you make. So there's nothing to. I can't get a stick between that. I have to say. Somebody saying Art of Pinot Noir, perfect pairing with Springbok loin. So there we got another pairing here. These are things difficult to get in Holland, Springbok. So I will have to come up with something else there.
Yeah, I think any of your winter games are good with that, really. And of course, especially with game birds as well. You know, that would be very good.
Like pheasant, for instance.
Amazing, delicious, yeah.
Very good. Then let's see if we have anybody with other questions. So if you have any questions, that will be a right moment to drop them in. And then talking about availability of your wines, besides the fact that there is never enough, which countries do you bring them to besides South Africa?
So we export to 40 countries around the world, and we have actually in the lockdown we managed to develop some new markets, which was very exciting for us. So our biggest markets are the UK, Scandinavian countries, so Sweden and Norway, in Belgium, in the Netherlands as well, which we're very proud of, and then in Switzerland, we actually export to France. Imagine, that's very exciting. Yeah, you will
that's a compliment.
In Burgundy, in Rhone, and to America, to Korea, little bit to Australia. So, but actually, yeah, all over the world. Lots of to the small islands like Reunion and.
So, it must. How does it feel if you see pictures coming by of those bottles from all around the world? I mean, Opera House Sydney or something like that. Just naming something here, where you see the bottle and it pops up. Because these days, I mean, I know you have a marketing background and as well, and still you're playing the marketing card at creation. What does it do to you when you see that? Because social media, the bottles are everywhere.
I think it's really incredible. I mean, it's very exciting to see what an amazing following we have. Like the Creation Nation is out there, you know, and just for us. And we really felt that, in a powerful way when we went through this very tough time where we had 6 months of lockdown out of 18 months. We just had incredible support from around the world and actually locally as well. So we have a great social compact with our team and our community and do a lot of work there, but it's also about our customers that really support us in a fantastic way. Just amazing.
Yeah, there's a question here. I used to buy your wine when I lived in the Netherlands. Is there an easy availability in Germany? I can't imagine that there isn't. But you have an importer that's Germany?
We do. We work with Avayan in Germany, and it's also possible to, if there is a wine that you want that you can't find, the person can actually just email me at carolyn@creationwines.com or send me. Yeah, maybe you can just. I'm happy if you publish my WhatsApp number. It's fine.
Okay, perfect. I know you're very, how do you call it, approachable and also very cooperative in helping people to get to the wines, not only to the wines, but also to visit your winery, because I've heard examples before where you just have to go pick up people just to be able to visit you at the winery. So I think that's great because it shows how much love you have for the fans, or sort of the fans of creation. You were saying Creation Nation, but that's it in the end. So I think it's really admirable, so down to earth, and really actually in touch with the people that are enjoying your wine.
Yeah,
Sandy,
I really I find that most of our innovation comes from talking to our clients in the tasting room, our guests. And they're a huge inspiration. So we really missed them when we were in lockdown, but we're so happy that they're back, and we're just delighted when people come to visit us.
Very good. So we're gonna round up. So we're almost on top of the hour, so that's working pretty well. A question that I gave you some time to think about for, I guess, for next week, because no, it's not for next week. I have to say it correctly. Next week I'm getting things mixed up here with all this traveling virtually. Next week I'm back in Spain again, but we're going to a very different part of the world. So it's actually nice that we go from South Africa then to South America, and that will be on the 3rd of December, where we're going to talk to Amanda Barnes. And I don't know if you heard about her already before I mentioned the question.
Yeah, she was. She did a very interesting piece for the buyer. So amazing journey, and I just I think I've got a question here for her. I hope it's something interesting. Maybe she's been asked it many times before, but we were wondering whether South America will still be dominated by cultivars like Malbec in Argentina and Pinot in Chile, or if there are other niche cultivars which are kind of, people are becoming more interested in and exploring, and so it would be useful to get her feedback on that.
That's a great question. Amanda is a great writer, very knowledgeable on wine, but also a good journalist. And she recently made a huge book, a huge masterpiece covering South America. But it's actually the first and only book I know that is going so in depth into the whole continent, more or less. So for everybody that hasn't seen it, I would encourage to look it up and get the book. It's not light reading because there's a lot of information in there, but it's really a pleasant book. And we'll be sure to ask her the question. I think when I'm thinking about that question, I'm also looking at the US, and then looking at all the change going on there, especially in Washington, Oregon, and really up north. That you find now the strangest varieties there. And people are really going into even the Rieslings, Albarinhos, even all sorts of varieties where it was always very clear Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. So I think that's happening there. So that would be interesting to hear how that's going in South America. Very good question. Thank you, Carolyn. I don't think I have anything else left in terms of questions. So unless somebody else comes up with one, then maybe from your side, some final comments before we wrap it up.
No, it was fantastic joining you, and yeah, please do take a look at our blog, our website. We publish one every week. This blog that was published this week was actually a project that my son, he was the guest blogger this week.
Ah, good.
About a whole bunch, and so that would be fun for you to look at, and just you can read up and find out everything that we're doing. Go and do any research that you want to, but do come and visit us because that's the best. And we look forward to being back in the Netherlands next year and coming to visit you and coming to see our favorite Harlem. And
oh, it would be good if you actually, as soon as you can get back and want to get back, I'll stay in touch with Eric, and then I'm happy to see you because yeah, I think like you said, there is a strong connection with the Netherlands, and not I mean in many facets with many people, so yeah.
And we'd also like to just invite you to Cape Wine, which is happening between the 4th and the 7th of October. Here in 2022, so yeah, that's also another great thing to think about. So you let us know.
Very good, very good. Let's see if I have. No, there is no other question here, so I think we just wrap it up. Very good. I've enjoyed our talk, Carolyn. I'm going to obviously put a review up for the Pinot Noir so people can read it back. We're going to put the recording online so they can also watch the recording back. And I still have a bottle of Chardonnay that I have to review. So you will also see that coming by.
Fantastic.
In a few weeks, my timeline is just going to be all creation bottles. So this, you see how it goes. I mean, I only post them if I like them. I never post them if I don't. So it's a compliment, I have to say. But thank you again, and also for your cooperativeness, the great marketing work as well that you guys are doing, the video that JC made and that you guys sent over, because some people might have not seen it yet, but he did a great introduction as well. It's good that we have you here, but it's also good that we have a little bit of JC attached.
He could have been here tonight, but he's, traveling and working like a crazy person as always. Yeah.
It would be very lucky if we get both of you in an interview. So I was not counting on that, and I think you did a great job. And I'm happy that we have also a little bit of JC. And the next time when we do an interview, we will switch around, and then you can make a video. And JC, we do the interview with JC then.
That would be perfect.
Thank you very much.
And cheers.
Yeah.
And
have a nice day, have a nice evening, and yeah, for everybody watching, we will post the recording later and the review. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. Also, if you want to get in contact with Carolyn about getting a wine that's currently not available, or if you have any other questions about creation, so be our guest and just reach out to us. And then next week we are going, like I said, back to Spain. So Bodega Mustigilio. So we're talking about Bobal, very different grape variety, but this is the region of Bobal, the Bobal grape. And Mr. Bobal, we're going to talk to Tony. And then on the 3rd of December, we're going to talk to Amanda about South America. And then we're going to ask your question, Carolyn. So thank you again. And I hope to see you too soon and chat a little bit more.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.